Hello, everybody. This is Oceanus, and sorry for being absent for over a week. I think I've had some university assignments I've had to get done, but those will be over pretty soon. So anyway, the Supreme Court is taking arguments to whether or not to uphold the executive order on birthright citizenship that Trump put out, and President Trump was even in attendance to this hearing. And a couple things happened in the hearing which I find absolutely ridiculous. We're going to take a listen to them, involving a couple of the justices.
Okay, and let's talk about its applications. So, there are some, I can imagine it being messy in some applications. So what would you do with what the common law called foundlings? The thing about this is then you have to adjudicate.
Okay.
If you're looking at parents, and if you're looking at parents' domicile, then you have to adjudicate both residence and intent to stay. What if you don't know who the parents are?
I think there are marginal cases. That one, I think, has the benefit of being addressed in 1401F, where it talks about
Yeah. But what about the Constitution?
Under the Constitution,
Okay.
I mean, look, domicile is a constitutional standard in all kinds of other situations.
Well, and it's hard.
Diversity jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction, sorry.
Well, yeah,
This
and
is
personal
Amy
jurisdiction,
Coney Barrett, by the way.
1332, diversity jurisdiction. And the thing is, it has to be litigated because it turns on intent. And the virtue of both jus soli and jus sanguinis, whichever one you pick, it's a bright line rule. How would it work? How would you adjudicate these cases? You're not going to know at the time of birth for some people whether they have the intent to stay or not, including.
Why should it matter? Why should it matter whether they have the intent to stay or not? If they are not citizens of the country, it doesn't, unless they're going through the naturalization process, which they most likely are not, given by what this case is arguing. Why does it matter, Amy? It doesn't matter.
Including U.S. citizens, by the way. I mean, what if you have someone who is living in Norway with their husband and family, but is still a U.S. citizen, comes home and has her child here and goes back? How do we know whether the child is a U.S. citizen because the parent didn't have an intent to stay?
I'd say
I'm pretty certain there are already avenues for that. I don't think that's really. That's what argument is this, Amy? What is this argument? That if two Americans who are living in Norway come back, they have a kid, and then they go back to Norway. Well, if they're Americans living in Norway, have they gone through the Norwegian pathways of citizenship? We're leaving a lot of details here. Are they Americans in Norway, or are they naturalized Norwegians? Because if they're Americans in Norway, then naturally their child would be an American citizen. Like, what is this argument? Now, if they were naturalized Norwegians, then that'd be different entirely. Then their kid should not be American. Their kid should be Norwegian, even if they were born in America, even if the parents were born in America. But because if they've gone through the naturalization process to get into Norway and they're now Norwegian citizens, that makes them Norwegian, or at least not ethnically, of course, but by the laws of civil law of Norway, they are considered Norwegian citizens. So their child should be considered Norwegian as well, if that's the case.
Make 2 points, one practical, one legal. The practical point is under the terms of this executive order, you don't have to, because the executive order turns on objectively verifiable things, which is immigration status. Are you lawfully present but temporarily present, or do you have an illegal status? So those kind of taking evidence, so to speak, under subjective intent wouldn't be done. And as to the constitutional point, obviously domicile is baked into a lot of constitutional and legal concepts, and there may be situations where facts are determined. But if you look at the guidance that all the agencies did after this court and Costa said the agency could go forward to issue guidance. The guidance provides, I think, very, very clear, objective, verifiable approaches to doing this. And so as a practical matter, I don't think it's presented by this executive order.
Thank you, General.
Justice Chair.
Okay, now John Sauer, he's very good at articulating this argument. I'm glad he's up there. Again, what was that, Amy? What was that? Come on. And then there's even, and then here's another one about this John Sauer. Okay, let's
that
do him.
based on Chinese media reports, there are 500 birth tourism companies in the People's Republic of China whose what business is to bring people here to give birth and return to that nation.
Having said all that, you do agree that that has no impact on the legal analysis before us?
I think it's, I'd quote what Justice Scalia said in his Hamdan dissent, where their interpretation has these implications that could not possibly have been approved by the 19th century framers of this amendment. I think that.
Of course it wouldn't. Of course, like the 19th century framers of this would not have envisioned a bunch of Chinese people coming over to America and giving birth and then having their children be U.S. citizens. That's not how it worked. Like it's so funny to me when people say the founders and the framers were these racist individuals, but somehow the 14th Amendment covered everybody in the world and not just black slaves that that it was meant to give citizenship to. Because back then you couldn't just hop on a plane and get over here and have a child and then go back and have them be your citizens. You couldn't do it.
Shows that they've made a mess. Their interpretation has made a mess of the provision.
Well, it certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but of course we're in a new.
Of course it wasn't a problem in the 19th century. What are you talking about? We didn't have mass media. We didn't have mass communications. We didn't have near instantaneous travel. It would have taken days weeks for people to get here on horseback, on walking, via boat. What are you talking about? Of course not. Freaking obvious.
New world now, as Justice Alito pointed out, to where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's
Exactly.
the new world. It's the same Constitution.
Okay, Justice Roberts, what do you mean it's the same Constitution? So whoa, hold on one second. Are you saying that it's the same Constitution, meaning as every state, every regulation against gun laws, that's unconstitutional? Because after all, it's a new world, it's the same Constitution, or is that only applied to the concept of citizenship as outlined by the 14th Amendment? All of a sudden, it's the Constitution may not be interpreted in any other way rather than it was written when it comes to the 14th Amendment, but that's not the case for the First Amendment, it's not the case for the Second Amendment, so on and so on. But this amendment right here is infallible. It is to be taken literally. Alright, let's keep going.
It is, and as Justice Scalia said, I think in the case that Justice Alito was referring to, you've got a constitutional provision that addresses certain evils, and it should be extended to reasonably comparable evils. He said that about statutory interpretation. I think the same principle applies here, and I think we quote that in our brief.
Thank you. Justice Thomas, any further?
Okay, so that was him talking with Justice Thomas. No, Justice Roberts. It was John Roberts. If I said Thomas beforehand, I meant Roberts. John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts. Clarence Thomas, of course, is probably going to be awesome on this as usual. Oh, Kentanji Brown Jackson. Oh, this was amazing to listen to. You got to hear this.
I was thinking about this, and I think there are various sources that say this, that you obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign.
Do you? Do you really?
And I was thinking, I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law?
That's not what allegiance means. If you go to Japan, commit a crime, and you're arrested for it, that's not because you have allegiance to Japan. It's because you committed a crime in their country as a foreigner, and you get arrested for it and prosecuted. You don't have to swear allegiance before you get arrested anywhere. What is this argument? I'm going to continue in a second, but are you serious? Heck yeah. I'm going to go to Japan and freaking vandalize a Shinto shrine and be like, hey guys, I'm swearing allegiance to you, now you can arrest me. That's not how that works.
also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on even.
But that's still not allegiance. Yes, if you are in Japan and you have a crime committed against yourself and you are a foreigner, you can go to the police and and they will they will address the crime seriously and try and accommodate you. Because of course, a crime committed against anybody, even if they are a foreigner, is bad. But that does not mean that you have allegiance to the country of Japan. You are a foreigner passing through. You are a tourist. Like, yes, laws apply to tourists and foreigners as anybody else. It's like this. It's like the saying, you can't say you've been ignorant of the law when you break the law in another country. It's not something that you can just plead. If you break the law in another country, you are going to jail. You're being punished, even if you knew you were breaking the law or not. It's not the allegiance has nothing to do with it. This is a stupid argument.
Even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense.
No. No, 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 no. What is this argument? I haven't done this before. I haven't really listened to oral arguments, but I'm thinking that maybe I should now because this is just too laughable. Like this is freaking comedy right here. What you just said. I think I've been missing out. No, that's ridiculous. You that's not allegiance. You don't have just because that the local authorities are obligated to help you if a crime has been committed against you as a foreigner, that does not mean that you are owing allegiance or you have an allegiance to the country. Like it's common sense. Oh, that's the same thing. But this is the freaking basis of the argument. Like, it's that these people have in regards to birthright citizenship. It's basically a, a technicality. Even though everybody knows, everybody who's able to generate context clues and knows history understands that the 14th Amendment was written solely on the basis to grant freed black slave citizenship. People are still gonna like do these stupid technicalities like, oh well, actually, they didn't specify who it was for, so therefore it's for everybody in the world. When, funny enough, it didn't cover Native Americans. So are Native Americans not citizens according to the left? Because they weren't covered initially under that. So if this entire thing if it's true that the 14th Amendment can only be interpreted as written, then Native Americans should not have had citizenship given to them. Because as written, they didn't say Native Americans can have citizenship. Well, so therefore they don't. So obviously this amendment has been interpreted several times. But somehow we can't now that we're saying, wait a minute, we can't just let everybody come in here, have a kid, and have them be American citizens all the time. Now it's not up for interpretation. That's ridiculous. That's silly. And then this is funny too. 160 countries not grant unconditional birthright citizenship. Barrett, what if a stork picks up a baby, flies it to the US, drops the child off at a church? Would the child have citizenship? Jackson, and would you shoot the bird? Like, come on. I what if she stole the bird's wallet? She she'd have allegiance. She'd have an allegiance to the flock. That's this is a genius conversation here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, do you have an allegiance to the flock if you stole the bird's wallet? No, you don't. Obviously not if you're breaking the law. Oh my goodness. Are these arguments real or April Fools? Justice Jackson would properly defended borders that bird would be dead before it entered our beloved country. Definitely. If the stork swooped down and grabbed the wallet of a U.S. citizen, wouldn't this create a sort of allegiance to the United States, thus making his chicks U.S. citizens? Has anyone checked if the Easter Bunny's visa expired? He'll be around this Sunday. Someone call ICE. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, I don't know what Barrett was on when she said that. That was stupid. And then Matt Walsh. He goes, the left's argument for birthright citizenship is obviously insane, but it's even more insane when you consider that they actually don't believe in you or my birthright. Your or my birthright. Exactly. We are on stolen land and don't belong here, according to them. But the anchor baby whose parents got here from Guatemala 10 seconds ago has a birthright, and is tied to this nation by blood for all time. That's actually their position. It's so psychotic that you can't argue against it. Like people having a political debate with a dog. These people are not rational. Exactly. This is exactly what's going on here. You, the person who has whose family has roots in this country dating back to colonial times, has somehow less of a birthright than the person who just got here. That's ridiculous. No, 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 no. And this is it right here. You can try to rationalize them all you want. Things will only make sense once you realize that they hate the values America was founded on, and they hate the heritage Americans who built this country. Just say white Americans. That's literally what it is. It's white Americans. They just don't like white Americans. Like it's like that's the entire basis of the argument. It's an anti-white argument, and they're wanting to replace white people in this country, same as they've wanted to replace ethnic British, ethnic Germans, ethnic who else in Europe? Ethnic Belgians, Danish, Irish. Ireland has a big migration issue right now. Like it's through the lens they just don't like European people and European descended people. Like it's just it's just that's just how it is. And here's like here's an example of like the bad faith argument here. The birthright citizenship isn't a leftist idea; it's the 14th Amendment. So your argument isn't with the left; it's with the Constitution. You're also mixing two completely different things. History, philosophy doesn't equal constitutional law. And anchor baby line, that's rhetoric, not logic. The Constitution is simple. Born here equals citizen. Period. And to be honest, are you arguing to change the Constitution or just mad about who it applies to? Okay, well that if this is the argument that you're making, Weston Riley, um, so California needs to scrap all of its gun laws right now. If this is the argument you're making, the Constitution is simple. Gun laws equal shall not be infringed. Period. But that's not what happened. That's not what's happening, isn't it? You can't be like, well, this is bad, but but you can't. And I'm sure he knows this. I'm sure he would justify it with like, well, actually, times have changed, and the founders didn't envision AR-15 assault rifles, personal bazookas, etc. Well, you know what else the founders didn't envision? They didn't envision a bunch of people from like freaking Africa, Somalia coming in here, um, setting up fraudulent businesses and defrauding the Native American peoples that live in Minnesota. They didn't think of that. They didn't think that was possible. All right, but somehow every other amendment, but the 14th is infallible. Every other amendment, well, I guess except the 13th too, maybe, um, is up for interpretation. That's literally the arguments here. And then real political data. Oh, yes, yes. Do you really believe that this was the intent of the 14th? U.S. territory turned tropical maternity ward has produced thousands of American babies for parents living in China. Yeah, exactly. Is this if the court upholds birthright citizenship. They are effectively saying that this is okay. That this is completely legal to do. That all these Chinese kids being born in this area are American citizens, even though their parents continue to live in China. It makes no sense. Anybody with a brain, anybody with any understanding of history, knows what the 14th Amendment was initially created for and the purpose. And I would hope that our Supreme Court justices, except for, Kentanji Brown Jackson, obviously, understand that at most out of anybody. But I am a bit concerned out of the answers that Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett gave. I don't know if they're doing this weird thing where it's like, oh, okay, I can see your point of view, but at the same time, I'm gonna vote with the conservative majority on this. That could be what's happening. Unfortunately, I don't have much faith in those two. But these people, these justices should know this more than anybody. You cannot tell me in good faith that this is what the framers. I say the framers. They're not the founders. The founders did not write the 14th Amendment. It was framers after the Civil War. You cannot tell me that this was somehow foreseen and thought of as okay. If this isn't happening now, but if it does happen in the future, it's okay. No, nobody was thinking about this. Heck, half the people who were writing this stuff probably didn't know where China was. It's not like today where you can just like take out your phone, look on a map, and be like, "Oh, there's China." No. Quiz: An American woman goes 8 months pregnant, goes on vacation, say France, and suddenly goes into labor, and her baby there is her child a French citizen or American citizen? The answer is obvious. This is exactly what jurisdiction means. Exactly. And then this guy's like, well, French constitution is like ours. Well, the French are probably smarter. Or not smarter. The French didn't take any chances. Yeah, it's just, ooh, tough shit. The amendment says what it says, shall not be infringed. But that's different. But anyway, guys, I had to say something about this because, this is a big deal. This is a very big deal. And I think it's probably the biggest case out of all the cases that are being considered right now. And it essentially um it finally lets us understand if America is a nation or an economic zone. Do do the people who have lived here for generations have more right to it than the people who just got here through illegal means? If the ruling is against Trump, then that essentially no. You or I, whose families have been in this country since the colonial era, have no more right to it than anybody else, and it's just magic dirt that anybody can lay claim to, which is suicidal because no other nation in the history of the world has ever claimed that to be the case. And if it does get passed, if that is the interpretation that the majority will side with, I don't know. I would be livid. I'm gonna be livid. I don't know how my reaction would be. Like, oh come on, you you've sold our future for what? I'm hoping that that they rule in favor of Trump's executive order, but I unfortunately, guys, I don't have faith in this majority. I have faith in Kavanaugh, Thomas, and Alito. Gorsuch is a maybe. Roberts and Barrett, I'm really iffy on, and unfortunately, all it takes is Roberts and Barrett to defect to screw us all. And I'm worried that Barrett is going to defect because she's got 2 Haitian kids, so she has a bias here. Anyways, I'll try and get back into my regular uploading schedule. Just been a busy couple of days, university wise. Have a good night, everybody. See you later. Please like, subscribe, share if you can. Bye bye.